All right, this is live. I mean, this is so live. This is like right out of the bathroom after you're done brushing your teeth, dropping off the kids outside. Hi, Liam.
Hi. How are you? I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. Good morning to Blast and a Half. We are talking today about something I know nothing about, so I'm glad you showed up because I like really know very little about this topic. Which, for those of you who are joining us, I am going to have Liam introduce himself, but today's topic is what is employer branding? And why we're talking about this is because, Liam, please do your introduction and tell us why you are here representing the world of employer branding.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here, Lauren. So great to see you using live as well as you are. You're fantastic at this. And apologize that I was a couple minutes close to being late. So I lead employer branding and talent attraction for a company called WillowTree, which is a digital product application company, partners with the Fortune 500 to create fantastic digital experiences and applications. I have always sort of been interested in talent and recruiting and people operations. And I started my career actually as a recruiter, sort of wound down a couple different roads since then in operations, in startups, and then found my way back to employer branding, personal branding, over the course of the last year or so. And this opportunity presented itself mainly having a lot to do with sort of the branding work that I've done for my personal brand on LinkedIn. So kind of a power of showing why it makes sense to invest in your personal brand on the LinkedIn platform. It just shows people things that you might not otherwise have been able to show them because if I had applied for this position that I'm in now, I probably wouldn't have got it because I just don't have a strong background in recruiting and talent acquisition, right? Like it's part of what I've done, but hasn't necessarily been my focus for the last 10 years. But they were willing to sort of bring me on board and try it out. It's going pretty well.
So are you telling me that you have this job that they actually like kind of crafted or carved out an opportunity for you because of what happened on LinkedIn?
That would be, yeah, I mean, has a lot to do with it. I was actually in the process of moving down to North Carolina with my family. And 2 weeks prior to moving here, WillowTree reached out with a job opportunity. I interviewed for it. And then over the course of the interview process, they sort of were thinking, with your background in sort of operations and marketing and sales and just kind of getting stuff done around companies that need a lot of stuff done, we were thinking about sort of creating a talent marketing organization and an employer branding organization. And we kind of need somebody that has a whole bunch of different experience to do it. And you seem to have that experience. And, specifically the level of effort that I've put into LinkedIn and the voice that I've created for myself is something that I think
it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. But of course, I'm going to ask you the following question. You ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Was this job posted?
No.
Okay.
It was something that was being discussed at the board level, I think, and there wasn't even a job description yet. So it was just sort of serendipity and coincidence coming together. And I'm super happy. I mean, it's been awesome. WillowTree is a phenomenal company. There's just a fantastic culture. I mean, I'm just past my 90 days, and been
that's awesome.
Drinking from a fire hose, but it's been great. Yeah, still there. Knock on wood.
So shout out. Sorry, I have to do this.
Go for it.
This job was not posted.
Correct.
This job was created because you essentially were a magnet of value. You were a creation that happened on LinkedIn. Somebody over there, unbeknownst to you at the time, was taking some copious notes about all that you were doing. And your value and your presence on LinkedIn planted a seed that then became a real live opportunity. And what do you know? It happened to happen at the same time that you were moving. And so it worked out very serendipitously. And I'm thrilled to pieces for you.
Thank you.
So when we talk about employer branding, one of the questions that I have is, how is this different than what employers have done in the past? Because let's face it, everybody who is wanting to know about a company, what do? They go to their corporate website and they read the materials, or, in some cases, corporate speak or jargon
Yep.
that is pertaining to that specific organization. So how does employer branding differ than what is on that corporate website? How does it differ from any other messaging? And is it limited primarily to LinkedIn?
That's a great question. So I think employer branding is a relatively new field. It sort of came about in the early 90s, but it's really, really picked up steam in the last, I think, decade or so, and a lot more so even in recent years. There's a lot more podcasts about employer branding now than there ever have been, et cetera. And the key difference is that, if you think about it, any place that a company wants to promote itself, whether it's to potential clients, to customers, to the talent organization, any place you want to promote yourself online, you want to make sure that you have a cohesive message. You want to make sure that you have the people in place that are thinking constantly about the whole package and are from a marketing perspective or mindset, right? The creative mindset. I think recruiters are phenomenal at recruiting, but they're also incredibly busy people and they're doing a ton of different things at once. And so it's very hard to have somebody on the recruiting side sometimes that will sit back and say, okay, well, how do we put the message out there that works the right way? Like expecting recruiters to A/B test emails and, do all sorts of different creative and copy and things like that. Like that's out of their core job function. Right. And really what you want them focused on is talking to those candidates and qualifying them and bringing the right people into the fold. But how do you fill the top of funnel to make their job easier? A lot of companies, especially smaller companies, they have to rely on being reactive, right? The job position comes available and then off they go to recruit. And if they've got a good pipeline from prior roles that they've filled, that's great. But there is no proactive sort of pipeline building that's done at scale. And I think that's the difference. Talent marketing and that employer branding, you're taking the marketing mindset that has typically been reserved for filling a funnel of leads for sales, and you're applying that to the talent funnel, right? Which there are parallels there that have been drawn before, but not necessarily to the extent of today. So nowadays, you've got so many different places that you can find people. You've got different ways that you can advertise. You've got communities that you can join. You've got so many different avenues for attracting talent that you need somebody that can kind of focus on all of them and think about them at scale. So that's really what I'm trying to do. I mean, my company, we're trying we have some very aggressive growth goals, and we're hiring people in the technology space at a really rapid clip. Those people aren't standing around waiting for jobs to come to them, right? You have to actively market to them. You have to sell to them. You have to engage them and get them to buy into wanting to be a part of the organization. And that's increasingly more difficult in this competitive landscape. So that is what employer branding is focused on, is basically being the voice of the company in the talent community, and developing a brand that makes people want to come work there.
This is, of course, a very timely topic because, as you can imagine, and as you know, because you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of discussion around the Great Resignation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all these people that are bailing out, and part of what they're bailing out for is because there's obviously a plethora of reasons, but some of the main ones are that they don't want to maybe work on site. They don't want, they've been there for a long enough period of time and the company isn't quote unquote taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them were, let's just say, miserable while they were there, but then once things started opening up, that pent up demand released them into the marketplace.
Yep.
So as far as employer branding and what you're doing, how are you guys addressing some of those things in your messaging? What is part of that message that helps that candidates out there in the marketplace might want to look for if any of those situations apply to them specifically, and or they are making tough decisions, as you've alluded to, with you're in demand. So what message is, let's just call it lip service, and what message are you really wanting to follow a thread on and kind of dig a little bit deeper to find out if, in fact, this is an organization that you want to align to. I know that's
totally. That's great. Yeah, I think. Look, I'm very fortunate in that regard because WillowTree has been in business since 2008, has established itself very, very well as a leader in the digital space, and you know me, right? Data is one of my favorite things, right? And data doesn't lie. And if you, in our instance, if you take a look at the Glassdoor reviews for WillowTree, if you look online, and our online presence, if you look at our website, you look at the awards we've won, you just start to see a trend, right? You can tell that it's not just lip service. Our CEO is one of the top 50 Glassdoor reviewed CEOs in small to medium sized business, and that's something that that's an award that Glassdoor doesn't bestow upon anybody, right? So, and I remember when I was looking at the Glassdoor reviews for the company when I was considering coming here, I was so impressed because he responds to every single review, and he's the busiest guy in the company, and we have 700 employees, and he still does that. He's an incredible leader, and he cares about the team that he puts together. And so you look for signs like that, right? You look for you follow the leadership on LinkedIn, and you see what they talk about, and you see how they interact with their community, and you look at other people in the company. I mean, that's one of the things that's so incredible is that it took so long for people to start talking about employer branding and personal branding, because we've all been on LinkedIn for a really long time, and we've all been online for a long time, but now there's this sort of democratization of talking about your experience at work on LinkedIn that I think is really valuable, because you start to see the who's who, right? You start to see which brands are taking it seriously and which brands are not necessarily. And so if you go to a career landing page or a life page on LinkedIn, or you see somebody's investing in the Muse, right, as an example, or they're doing as much as they can to put their story out there, they're taking that seriously, right? There are some companies out there that are just, phenomenal examples of how to show their culture. Gong jumps to mind. They're one of my favorite ones. Drift is another one. They've got communities that they're building online, and that community doesn't have to be just a community of people that have worked there. It can be people that just love following the brand, or interested in the people that work there, might want to work there someday, or just find the content that they create valuable, right? That's a huge thing, right? If I can put out content that people like, there's no reason why the company can't, and there's no reason why my 500 or 600 colleagues can't do it either. And so when you start to think about that multiplier effect, right? How do we get people in the company leveraging their networks and talking about the company? It just kind of compounds itself. And so a really effective employer branding program will have people internally fired up about posting online and getting people to pay attention to the brand. And that's really the ultimate goal.
So I love that, because here's kind of like the underbelly of that. When I meet with clients, candidates, prospects, I ask them not only what is your top 10 list, of course it's and why.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm not looking for, it's Google and they're amazing, I'm looking for some meat underneath this, and I'm looking for some understanding of why you want to align with this company, because by and large, most people, when they are thinking about their next move, they are thinking specifically, I want to work with a place with a great culture.
Right.
I want a place that is, that has a growth mindset, that delivers on innovation.
Yep.
All these things. And then part of it is, in my world, is what companies inspire you.
Yep.
Inspiration and hearing about what people are doing day to day isn't living on a corporate website.
Right.
Right.
Well, if the corporate website's really good, it could be. But generally speaking, no.
Yeah. Like traditionally, right?
Right. Yep.
You're an outlier, I know. So you want to give me some slack. But the point is that this is employer branding, from what I understand from you, is also an ability to have real-time impact, right? Yep. So it's not a static piece of content that's just sitting there.
Yep.
Most people don't really update their corporate website too often. I mean, maybe a blog or something like that, but but the activity on LinkedIn and let's just say other places can lead to that. And so if you are a candidate in the marketplace and want to learn more about that company, maybe you're following a specific hiring manager or doing a Google search of, so and so, or seeing what this person, maybe they've published on Medium. Maybe they've been, a thought leader in some other capacity. Where are they speaking? Are they at a LinkedIn event? So I really see this as an opportunity to find what is hiding in plain sight, right?
Yep.
It's there and available. And
Yeah.
I really like the fact that you are kind of not only leading this charge, but also invigorating their usage of LinkedIn above and beyond, what it is that they are there to do just when they need to, for their next career move.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you sort of hit the nail on the head with the serendipity piece. And, there's, it used to be that you pay attention to job boards and you try and look for the job of your dreams or the job that fits the bill, right? Your focus on the company was a little bit less present, right? You obviously want to work for a good company, but like you're looking for jobs essentially. And now what I think there's sort of a shift towards looking for the company that you fit into and then finding a role within the company or finding somebody within the company that can help you find the role.
Can I put a crown on your head? Seriously, this is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Because the role doesn't have the same longevity as the organization.
Correct.
A role can change and you can move from department to department, but if you are invested in that organization and you are in alignment, I say like alignment is kind of like the new resume, right?
Yep.
If you are in alignment, then the lifespan and usually the fulfillment and satisfaction level is just exponentially higher.
Yep.
And so I love that you're talking about that shift, and I have a crown waiting, so I'll make sure that you understand what I'm saying.
Totally. And I think, if you bring up a great point too, where every single action you take on LinkedIn is an opportunity to place a micro ad for your personal brand, right? And so if you follow a company and that company is leveraging LinkedIn to create good content and, things that you have something to say, and you start commenting on all of that company's content and you start liking it and reacting to it, your name becomes familiar to the people that are seeing that post and the people that work at that company, right? So if after 2 months I have spent, I've added, 15 or 16 comments to a Gong social media posts or something on LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden I reach out to their social media person and I say, hey, I just love the content that you're putting out right now. And I don't know if you have any openings that are available for me or might be a good fit, but I just want to reach out and say, you're doing a hell of a job and really appreciate your content. And I love Gong as a company. Well, all of a sudden that person's like, oh yeah, I recognize your name. And then that might open doors to a conversation with somebody that works in the organization that you want to be a part of. And you just never know. You're manifesting your own destiny. And I think that that's happening now more than ever for people that realize that it's a possibility. I think there is still that old school kind of stigma that you don't want to bother hiring managers, or you don't want to, run the risk of reaching out and then having them not respond to you and things like that. But that's sales. Everybody's in sales, especially now, so it's just taking on a different format. And you're basically playing the long game by planting the seed that this person's here, he's paying attention to us. And then they might start paying attention to you, and then good things might happen. And if they don't, they don't. But it's no skin off your back, really, right? Because you're still consuming content that you enjoy, and you're, networking with people in an industry that you are passionate about. Like you can't lose there.
Right. So I love what you just said, right? Your comments, and I am going to make a caveat or provide one. Good comments, right? Like please,
good comments. Yeah.
Please, value added comments, please.
Yeah.
Set you up as somebody who is building your brand awareness, your name awareness. So then when you go and have a conversation, right? They're like, oh, that guy Liam, I've seen him so many times. Oh my God, he knows what he's talking about. So you're building a base level of clarity and understanding. And what you're also saying indirectly is, I'm invested in you.
Yeah.
I am invested in your brand and your company. And guess what? I kind of know you, right?
Right.
I'm vibing with what you're saying. I appreciate this. I know about that. And given a choice between candidate A and candidate B that's coming in cold, you're going to have a pretty good shot. I'm not going to promise you're going to land the job, but by and large, clients and companies want to hire people who are team me.
Yeah.
Right?
And from a consideration perspective, I mean, no, you're not going to guarantee that you get the job, but you don't. That's not the purpose for doing it, right? You're doing it because you want to open the door to get your foot in and see if there's a job that exists, or there's a way you can find the job that you want. And whether that's now or down the line, it doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that your foot's in the door. And that is massive, because the average recruiter spends 15 to 30 seconds looking at a resume and then determining if they're going to call them back or not. And then they've also got 500 resumes for that position. So how do you get to the top of it, right? I always tell people, instead of, I get a lot of people that come to me and say, I'm having a trouble finding a job. And I'm like, okay, well, are you targeting companies, or are you targeting jobs? And they're like, I'm targeting jobs. And I'm like, well, why don't you target companies? Go find 10 or 15 companies that you want to be a part of. Find people that are in those companies that are in the roles that you think you want to be in, and start engaging with them, interact with them, connect with them, follow them. And then, at some point when you're feeling ready, introduce yourself and see if you can send them a Starbucks gift card to have a conversation, to have a virtual coffee, and get an introduction, because nothing works better than getting an internal referral. Referrals go right to the top of the pile. The recruiter's going to look at it, and probably for longer than 30 seconds or 15 seconds.
I'm like recruiting you for Portfolio Rocket. So perfect.
As a matter of fact, if you can get yourself into the interview process with a recruiter through a referral, you're almost guaranteed a call. Unless your skill set is just totally far from what they're talking about, that employee referrals are gold. So that is one of the other things that I think people fail to understand, is that you can leverage, everybody is there. LinkedIn is the world's largest CRM, and all the leads are already in there, and you just have to think about your job search differently. Instead of seeing what's available now, it depends on your situation, right? If you're looking for a job right now, then that might be the route you go. But if you're a professional who's employed and you're just thinking about maybe making a move at some point, or you just want to start thinking long term, 2 years down the road, I would love to work for that company,
Right.
Just take actions now that will start to multiply into something bigger in the end.
So I want to also crack this nut open
Sure.
and I love you, because you're always going to get in the ring, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you just kind of talked about earlier, is the long versus the short game.
Yep.
Short game, from what you said, what you're describing, and what I also believe, is check the box and get the job.
Yep.
Right? The short game is, I'm going to, maybe apply to whatever's on a job board.
Yep.
And talk to us about why the long game is that your recommendation, and why?
Yeah. So, I think it's really interesting how transactional careers have always been, right? You look for one, when you need it, you go down this path, you think that you have to stick in the same place forever. And, I've even been there. I've struggled myself, I'm in a role now where I'm far more focused on marketing than I am on operations. It's a blend of the two, but it's different than what I'm accustomed to in the past. And so, but that's a good thing. That's growth. That's passion. That's how you evolve as a professional. And so you should always be thinking less about where you are right now and how to get to the next step right now, but more so just thinking about, what types of places do you want to be at, and investing in your career, right? It's just like your 401k. You contribute and you chip away, and that interest compounds. And then the goal is, at the end of your, when you're ready to retire, you've got this nest egg that's big enough to take care of you for your remaining time. And so the fact that the job search isn't really the same way kind of counterintuitive to me, right? You should be investing in your career like you're investing in savings and in your 401k. And so that's not one big fell swoop every 10 years or every 5 years. It's consistency and it's actions on a small scale that add up to a greater sum, right? And so that is one of the things that I think has always fascinated me about where we are in this moment in time. So many job seekers still think like, well, I'm just going to submit the job on the job board and then see what happens. It's like, no, like take it into your own hands. Find people that work at the company that you can introduce yourself to and see if you can move your resume to that top of that pile, or you can just become more visible and memorable in those people's minds because they might remember, oh, who was that person that I talked to 6 months ago that would be perfect for this job, right? Those are the things that you want to orchestrate your own serendipity. That's kind of what I say.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it takes.
So I want to back up 1 second.
Yep.
If the short game is, your description, transactional, right? Check the box, do this. The long game in this kind of parallel structure is going to be the short game is transactional. The long game is what? What does the long game give you?
I mean, the long game is a strategy. The long game gives you longer term opportunity, more opportunity over the long term. And it fosters a little bit more serendipitous connection, right? It's the opposite of transactional. I mean, you can view them as transactional, but it's better opportunity over the long term, and it's broadening your exposure for your personal brand, right? I think in 2009, I was let go had gone through a couple of rounds of acquisitions and layoffs, and I started a company called Talent Fish. That was my first sort of foray into talent coaching. Mighty 26-year-old me, but I was super passionate about it, and back then I was beating the same drum, right? Like just chip away at finding people online that work at companies that you want to work at and start building rapport with those people and see if you can, what materializes, whether it's now or 6 months from now or 2 years from now, doesn't matter. And that is ultimately what I think is happening now. A lot more people are focusing on that as opposed to just that one time, I need to look now, I need to jump now. It's just not necessary anymore.
Thank you. I also just want to thank a couple people who are here. I want to thank Jeff. He says, what a great topic, and something that so many companies and likely won't spend time working on. And so I think that is, shout out to you, a small, medium-sized enterprise level organization that may not be necessarily, involved with employer branding. It matters. People are watching. People want to know. And also, they have a lot of choices. It's a candidate marketplace right now. And, every candidate that I work with, every client, is at multiple offers. And there's a reason for it. And, they're looking at, which one is best for them. And part of what they're looking for is well outside of the salary band. They're not, that culture piece is, way, way, way up at the top. Yep. So that's not coming from, the culture isn't showing up in the job, in the job offer. Right. They have to live it, feel it, and want to sign up for it. Another one from Ken Lang. Thanks so much, Ken. This is another take on the hidden job market. You create your own job to fill a company's specific need. And, like you're a perfect example. They didn't have an opening that said employer branding. They saw what you were doing, and then you became somebody that they could see could solve a problem for them, right? They are looking to build those very specific talent pipelines. They know that there's a lot of competition in the market for strong digital tech, talent. They're always in high demand. So how do we, if we're not Google or, Amazon or whoever, is the latest, greatest, how do we drive that brand awareness and create that vision of culture? And then Varsha, thank you so much. I work with military and veterans. This is essential information. I'm going to share this with my network, Lauren and Leo.
Awesome. That's great.
Fantastic. And a shout out to Tezia, loving this talk. And of course, my shining light over here, Erica, always the best. Custom positions I created more often than people realize. Theme is a prime example of showcasing value and offers coming to you. So I think that that's also really a huge thing, right?
Yep.
What you do on LinkedIn, how you do it, and who you do it with can really help to curate not only your algorithm, because of course you're kind of training it as you go along.
Yep.
Also aligning it within maybe a specific industry. So if you're somebody that like really wants to break in, I work with a lot of gamers, and they're always looking for Japanese animation companies and all these like super cool kind of up and coming areas. Go follow them.
Yeah.
Go find out what they're doing. Invest in what the comments are, in those conversations, and drill down into those comments consistently. So like you said, you've invested, you have like all this equity, and then you can cash it in when you have a conversation. So
and I think what else is interesting is to Jeff's point about how many companies don't do this and likely won't. I think we're in this really interesting moment in time from a talent perspective, because you are going to start to see which companies really sort of get it and really care about the human component, and which companies don't quite so much. And I think that is going to create a bifurcation in the talent community, where you're going to have top talent going to these top employers, and it exists today to an extent, but it's going to become even more magnified because the companies that get it realize that people can work remotely. This is the internet age, right? Like you don't have, how do there are people who say, well, people have to be in the office because we want to make sure that they're working on things in the core hours, et cetera. And I understand that, but at the same time, if you hire good people and you have faith in your hiring process and you have faith in your management teams, you're not necessarily going to need to have them in the office. You don't need to look over their shoulder all the time and see what they're doing. In fact, unless you're doing that, you have no idea if they're just surfing the web or if they're actually doing work anyways. So what does it matter which internet connection you're connected to, right? Now, I will say, I personally am very much a like hybrid. I think we've talked about this before online. Like I'm very much a fan of like the hybrid model. Because I thrive off of the energy of an office and the culture and the dynamic and like bumping into people in the coffee room and the kitchen. And those are the types of things that I really miss. So, whether if I was given the choice, I would be doing kind of a mix of both, right? Working from home when it's convenient and working from the office when it makes sense to do that. But that's not for everyone. And I think the companies that realize that and give people the options to have the work experience that they want to have to be most productive and most effective, like treat your employees like adults, right? They know themselves. And then as long as your management team knows how to nurture and knows how to effectively get results from their team, you shouldn't be worried about it either, right? So there's just a lot of shifts that are happening in the talent marketplace right now. And I think the other piece is that companies are becoming as you know, my background is primarily startups, right? So technology startups tend to be a lot more focused on the culture dynamic as opposed to the specific role. It differs as you scale a business, right? You sometimes need more specific focus, but a lot of the times it'll be like, oh man, we've got to find a way to get that person to come work here. Like the number of times that I've had conversations with recruiters and members of the HR team or the hiring teams that I work with, where they're like, we got to find something for that person. Like that is non-traditional. Those are not things conversations that I think were happening 20 years ago or 30 years ago at the level that they are now. And so
those companies, not only are they invested in culture, many of them, maybe even most of them, are not putting job postings up because they're going through their network. They're following somebody and know of them through somebody else. And so, $800 a month or more to do job postings consistently to drive that talent pool is a big expense, and you're on a shoestring. So absolutely. Liam, we're a little bit past the hour, but you are always worth hanging out with just for a little bit more.
Thank you so much.
I am a huge Liam fan, and part of why I'm a huge Liam fan is because he is completely like, he's the best data nerd I know, but also he's like a real guy. And if you haven't followed him on LinkedIn, don't miss out, because this guy has like knocked it out of the park. And I love what you are bringing to WillowTree, and just like sending you huge amounts of appreciation and love and gratitude for all you do.
Thank you so much. Right back at you. I mean, I've been a fan of yours for a really long time, and I've been watching you grow your own network and brand, and it's just been so much fun to get to know you better and see what you're doing and the value that you're providing on the platform. And I'm so happy to see that you've got this live show going and you're consistently doing it and you're knocking it out of the park on that realm too. So I'm taking notes because I need to do more lives myself.
I'll be with you, cheering you on as always. Go enjoy the rest of the day in NC, and thanks for giving us the skinny on employer branding. And if you're a job seeker, start looking for companies that are doing it right. And if you're not a job seeker and you are a leader in an organization, big, small, medium size, anywhere in between, get on it, because this is not something that you can really afford to miss out on. It doesn't take that much effort, and for the most part, it's pretty much like you can generate it yourself. And so start doing it, and see the fruits of your labor. So
absolutely. 100%.
Talk soon. Thanks for joining on Blast and a Half. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.